Morning guys, Boone down south here. So, I've been shooting this Ravin LR and I've had some questions, and really it's the same question I had when I first saw this turret scope. I really didn't fully understand the impact of the turret scope. And I just tell you up front, I really like this turret scope. It is really nice, it's really, really clear. But the idea is, you have range markers around the scope and you turn this turret to the distance you want to shoot. And it starts at 20 yards and you go 30, 40, 50, on up to 130 yards, okay? This thing's supposed to do 3-inch groups at over 100 yards, right? Now, I don't know if I'm capable of that, but that's what we'll do. But that's another video, and we start doing some long range shooting with it. But I had some questions when I did the review, and same questions I had. Do I have to turn that turret every time I shoot a deer? And let me just preface this and say that I started shooting a blade when I was 16 years old. So I've been hunting with a blade for 40 years now. And in 40 years, out of all the deer I've killed with a blade, only 2 of them were around the 30-yard mark that I can think of. The rest of the deer I've killed with a blade have all been 20 yards and under. So just put that in perspective. But when I was testing this out, I did find out that when I shot 20 and 30, they were pretty much, you couldn't notice a drop on that. Now I'm sure there's some drops due to physics, but it just was negligible as far as I'm concerned, and I did that a couple times. But the question is now, for you guys like to go a little farther, maybe hunting food plots out to 40 yards, what's that drop look like? And that's what I'm gonna find out today. So what I'm gonna do is basically test this thing. I'm gonna shoot this at 10 yards, at 20 yards, at 30 yards, and 40 yards. And I'm not touching the turret. I'm gonna leave it at 20 yards. Because I think the reality is, for most hunting situations, especially for me, 30 and under, I never have to touch the turret. So y'all hang with me as we run this test, and we'll show you the whole thing and see what the results are. All right guys, here on the spiderweb targets, these are gonna be my aim points. It's gonna be 10, 20, 30, and 40. So hopefully we'll get a good idea of what the drop looks like each one of those. I don't have 4 arrows, so I'm gonna shoot one at a time, but we'll video the whole thing and see how this thing looks, okay? Okay guys, this is gonna be the 10-yard shot. Alrighty. Now we're gonna move back to 20. All right, there's no 10-yard reticle marker on here, still on the 20. Now we're doing 20 yards at the next aim point. Okay, so that's 10 and 20. We're now gonna do 30 yards. I'm not touching this, it's still set at 20. Just to see what the difference is between 20 and 30 yard setting, as far as the drop goes. I don't think those will be very much, and then the 40 is really gonna be telling, I think. So this is gonna be 30 yards with the turret set to 20 yards, so I haven't touched the turret at all. All right, that's 30, very minute drop. Let's take a picture of it. All right, guys, now at 40 yards. I've not touched the turret, still at 20 yards. I expect there to be a drop. The question is, how big is that drop? And what are the implications for, target range animals? Let's find out. Again, 40-yard shot with on a 20-yard reticle. And I did have a noticeable drop there. I got some wind blowing here today too, by the way. And that was, that's a more noticeable drop at 40 yards. So let's go check it out. All right guys, that's at 40 yards with an aim point right here, okay? The Leatherman is 4 inches long. Put it to the center of the arrow. You can see that. So you're looking at a just under a 3-inch drop. We're gonna call it a 3-inch drop at 40 yards. 3-inch drop at 40 yards. All right, so, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm pretty much killing it to 30 and I got a 3-inch drop at 40, I'm just gonna rely on the animal to drop, hearing me at 40 yards, and I'm just gonna aim a little bit high. I don't see a need to change turret at 40 yards. Okay guys, so based on what I see here, 3-inch drop at 40 yards, really it's after 30 where it starts to drop. So you can adjust that turret if you want for those 40 yards. I'm not. I don't think it's worth doing. You know, the animal is gonna drop, the further out they are, the more likely they are to hear you and start that drop sequence. And so you're 3 inches low. I mean, I'd aim a couple inches high if it's, you know, if it's out at 40. I just don't see any reason why I'd want to risk having to move my hand up here and turn the turret. So effectively, you know, the question, do you need to change that turret when you're shooting a deer? I mean, in my book, here on the whole eastern side of the U.S. where it's all wooded terrain and everything else, unless you're hunting 100-acre bean farms and something like that, and you're hunting over big food plots with an open field, I mean, 40 yards really is, for most people, that's their effective range. You know, like I said, in 40 years of hunting, I've only killed 2 out of 30, and everything else has been under 20. I set up close, you know, looking for the high percentage shot. So the idea of changing this turret is really for your long range fun shooting. You know, when you're shooting this at a long distance, just, you know, hanging out at the range, playing with your friends, and, you know, target shooting, playing some games like that. That's what that turret's going to drill down for. But effective deer hunting, at least here in the eastern U.S., you don't need to touch that turret as far as I'm concerned. So you can if you want, but you don't need to. This thing is fast and it's kicking those airs downfield there. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. So that's my take on it. That's my real world test. I will say I'm not the best shooter. There's a lot of people better shooting than me, but I got a really cheap bipod that I'm using. It's got a lot of play to it and stuff like that. So I'm really not, you know, just kind of shooting this more like I would when I'm hunting, you know, be resting on the tree stand or on my leg or something like that. So anyway, take that for what it's worth, guys. This is real footage, real world. That's the deal with the Ravin LR out to 40 yards with a turret scope, guys. No turn. See y'all next time.